Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be. This is JP. It's Journeys with JP evening tonight instead of Journeys with Rebecca. Rebecca is otherwise engaged. And so I'll be carrying the, I'll be driving the bus, and about half an hour I'll be serving some snacks, cups of tea, and honey made with shungite. So thank you very much. I'll just remind you, this show is broadcast on Wolf Spirit Radio, Ever Beyond Radio, freedomslips.com, which is Revolution Radio, Studio B. We will be very pleased if anyone makes donations. These are all listener-supported stations. The Wolf Spirit Radio is subscriber-supported. Journeys Rebecca is client-supported. And Revolution Radio is listener-supported. You can buy stuff. I recommend the seed packs, always very useful. And so, without more ado, I'd like to introduce my guest, Catherine Carrigan. We have not spoken. I have had a very brief briefing. But you guys know me. I can wing this. How are you, Catherine? How are you doing?
JP, I am so happy to be here with you and with your listeners. Thanks, everybody out here for joining us. And I just hope we have a great, fun time together.
I'm sure we will. Okay, so I can hear myself in the background. I'll try not to speak so loud. And thank you for muting when I speak. That's very good. Where shall we start? Now, Rebecca sent me a very brief thing. Oh, that's right. Yes. Let's just start with the title of your book, which is The Difference Between Pain and Suffering. Now I often speak on my shows about the subtle differences between two words, like fact and opinion, and pain and suffering. Yes, and we have a jingle here on the Revolution Radio, which is, fear is not real. It's a choice, and it's a choice between experiencing fear as something that will debilitate you, or you just move through the feeling and do the thing anyway. So, which is another title of a book. So, the difference between pain and suffering. How did you get to write such a book?
Well, thanks so much for asking, JP. I'm a medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. The difference between pain and suffering is actually my 8th book and my 6th Amazon #1 bestseller. Eighth book, 6th Amazon #1 bestseller. This book, The Difference Between Pain and Suffering, was at #1 on Amazon for 22 consecutive days in 7 separate categories. So it is really, really resonating with people. And being a medical intuitive healer, I do all my work really prayerfully. And how I came to write this book was very interesting because in 2013, 4 years ago, I was on a car trip, like we all do, a long, boring car trip. And, sometimes when you let your mind go quiet, that is when your guidance can slip in most easily. And my guidance told me to write a little article called The Difference Between Pain and Suffering. And when I got to a computer, I whipped it out in probably about 30 minutes. I didn't even think anything of it. But what I noticed, JP, was when people would come to my website, CatherineCarrigan.com, someone would literally read that article literally every day of my life. And then what happened was another author wrote her first book. And in the first book, she quoted that article. And I thought, I'm really getting the message that I need to write a book about this. Now, being a medical intuitive healer, I get people out of pain and suffering all day long, every day. That is what I do. So it didn't really I didn't really even think about it. But what I realized is that people are really wanting this information. Now, number one, we've had a very dramatic change in this country, in the United States, in that the leading cause of death for Americans 50 and under is now drug overdose. This was not how things were when I was growing up. Iatrogenic disease caused by medical mistakes, has always been an issue. Some people say that's even the third leading cause of death for everyone. But drug overdose, and specifically 91 Americans die every day from opioid overdose. And I just really thought, those of us who in natural healing, who know how to get people out of pain without drugs, without surgery, this is our time to really step up to the plate. So pain is the physical experience. As they say, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Suffering is the emotional experience. And whenever I'm doing a healing as a medical intuitive healer, I always identify what is the emotion that is causing your pain, because emotions can shut down literally any layer of our being.
Exactly.
And whenever I do a medical intuitive reading, I go through and I read the body. I read what's happening on the physical level. And you know what your physical body is: the bones, the muscles, the organ systems. Your energy body, I read your chakras, your acupuncture system, and your breath. And then I read the emotional body, and the emotional part of you is the largest part of you, and it can shut down everything. Then I read your mind. What are the thoughts and beliefs behind this disease or illness? And then what's going on the spiritual level? And your spiritual level is the most powerful part of you. Your light body is basically it's the radiance of your soul. So you have a pain body, and your pain body is, in a nutshell, your unresolved emotional garbage. Okay. And, being a human being, that's just part of it. And what's quite interesting, JP, to me as a healer, is that I see all kinds of people. There'll be people who have barely anything really wrong with them, and they're on multiple medications, and they're exhausted, and they're miserable, and they make other people miserable. And then there are other people who you look at them and you go, how is this person not truly suffering? But they've got a really strong connection to their spiritual self. And one of the things that I'm always encouraging my clients to do is study older people who have become like spiritual warriors. They've developed their spiritual self. They know how to connect into their bliss body. They know how to connect into the eternal part of themselves. And these people suffer far less than the rest of us. So I wrote this book, The Difference Between Pain and Suffering, as a handbook that anybody can use to learn how to get out of pain naturally without drugs. And as I said, it seems to have hit it really hit a chord with people. I think people are really searching for this information. And, once you're on, multiple medications and you've had the surgery, it's easy for people to lose hope and to feel hopeless and to feel like, no one knows what to do with me. But with natural healing, we have a much bigger, broader understanding of who you are as a human being. And by addressing all aspects of you, you can supercharge your healing and get over dis-ease, illness, pain, and suffering really, really rapidly. At least that's my experience as a medical intuitive healer.
Wow. Okay. Plenty to go on there. In terms of, your approach to, obviously it's not going to be, how do we put it, allopathic, approach to, the undoing of these doings, of these miasms, these toxicities, and all of these things that go along with with being badly prescribed bad drugs. You take, do you start from the top? I mean, are you working from the mental body, down through the emotional into the physical? Are you kind of retraining reality in that way?
That's a great question. Well, JP, so I'm going to start with the big picture. My father's a doctor. My brother's a medical doctor. My grandfather was a medical doctor. My uncle was a medical doctor. I come from a long line of medical doctors, and I do natural holistic energy healing. Now, when people come to me, the average person who comes to me, they've already seen at least 7 other practitioners. They've been to the doctor, the psychologist, the psychiatrist, the physical therapist, the massage therapist, the chiropractor, the shaman, the naturopath. You know, who else am I leaving out? So they've been to a wide range of highly trained, highly experienced practitioners. But what I do differently is that I look at all of you. So when I do a medical intuitive reading, I start quick and dirty. I look at a person's overall life energy. So 50 would be average for a person your age. So if you're a 20 years old, 50 would be 50 out of 100, your chi would, I'm comparing you to another 22-year-old. If you're 80, I'm comparing you to other 80-year-olds. So I start by looking at your overall life energy. And the way that I think of energy or chi, it's like money in the bank. So when you take care of yourself, when you have good self-care, when you exercise regularly, when you eat organic food, when you're properly hydrated, when you get enough rest, when you deal with your emotions as they arise, when you have a spiritual practice like meditation and prayer, all these things help to build your chi. And building your chi, as I said, in my view, is like having money in the bank. If you have $10 in the bank and you have a financial emergency, you could get in trouble in a hurry. But if you have $100,000 or $1 million in the bank, maybe it's not so fun to have a financial emergency, but you can handle it. And when you have good self-care and you build your chi on a regular ongoing basis, and you're living in a house with mold, or you get exposed to germs on vacation, you can handle it. Or when you hurt your shoulder in the garden like I did several years ago using a pickaxe in my front garden, and I ripped the tendons and ligaments in my right shoulder, you can deal with it. So I start by looking at your overall chi level, then I read the physical body. So again, most people have a general idea of what the physical body is. Your bones, your muscles, your organ systems, your vertebrae, your nervous system. Then I move into reading your energy body. And the energy body includes your chakras, your acupuncture system, and the breath. Then, as I mentioned, I read your emotional body, and I find the predominant emotions that are inside of you. Now, it's very interesting when you really study these things, what you find, and I'm sure you'll agree, JP, that we look outside into the world, and whatever emotions you're feeling inside of you, you actually project those out into the world. So if you're feeling angry, you're going to look at it in the world and find 100 things to be angry about. Or if you're feeling sad or depressed, you're going to look out into the world and find lots of reasons to, substantiate your grief. Your emotions are inside of you. You are responsible for the energy that you carry around and for the emotions that you carry around. And just like we can take care of our physical body by eating well and exercising and get enough sleep, you can take care of your emotional body by dealing with negative emotions when they arise, face it, deal with it, and move on. And also start your day in as much of a positive frame of mind as you can. Every morning when I wake up, I pray, I meditate, I think about everything that I'm grateful for. I play with my puppy, and then I start my day. I start my day in as high vibration state as I can. Then I move into the mental body, and I'm looking at what are the thoughts and the beliefs that caused your dis-ease, that contributed to your pain and suffering? And then finally, I look at what's going on in the spiritual body. What is the karma? What's the wounded spirit? What thought forms have you carried forth from past lives? What are you dealing with? What baggage are you carrying around? And then when I do a healing, I'm literally clearing everything on all these levels. And by looking at you as a human being with all these aspects, it's a much more complete and total and effective approach to healing. And that's why you can move through things much more rapidly when you address all aspects of yourself. And what happens is that if you look at traditional medicine, and I do respect a traditional medicine model. If you need to go to a doctor, I'll send you one in a heartbeat. My brother is an excellent medical doctor.
If I came off a motorbike, guess who I'd want to go to? I wouldn't go to the homeopath. No,
absolutely.
But, once I've been healing, then I go to the homeopath. It's all a matter of order, isn't it? That's how I got into it, actually. I fell off a bike and, I had to go through the gamut of, all kinds of healers, and I eventually ended up with a spiritual healer who literally touched me. And, the pain, which was a nervous ganglion adhesion, dissolved and never came back. So, so I had this, enormous, sort of spiritual healing. And then his wife said, "Oh, you can do that too." And I was like, no, because I was a real art skeptic at the time. And that's what really started me off and, how I got here. That was my journey. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that's how yeah, go ahead.
Exactly right, JP, because those of us who do natural healing, we don't necessarily start out as believers, but you go to the medical doctors and you run out of options. And that's who my clients are. They run out of options. They're like, okay, I'm taking all the drugs. I've had the surgery and I'm still in pain and I'm still suffering. And now what? And I actually really appreciate working with those people because you have their attention. They're like,
yeah, they're finally listening.
Yeah, they're finally listening. Yeah. It's like, okay, now what do I do? So, yeah. And then you have these experiences of, having somebody lay hands on you or work with your energy or shift your emotions or work with all aspects. And you're like, okay, now what do and help me feel even better now. So help me feel radiantly healthy, radiantly happy.
So now where can we go? I mean, we can go so many places. What interests me is have you seen many instances of, physical diseases that, manifest as a result of past life trauma that is re-triggered in this life?
Yes. I'll tell a story. This is a pretty good story. This is a gentleman that I worked with probably 10 years ago. And what happened was that he actually brought his young daughter to me. And by young, I'm thinking she was maybe 3 or 4 years old. And, any rate, his young daughter had some problems and he was an international businessman. So this gentleman comes to see me in a business suit for me to work with his daughter. And I got down on the floor and it looked like I was playing with a daughter. And about 2 weeks later, he called me up and he said, the school wants to know what it is that you do exactly. Because whatever problem the little girl had completely disappeared. So the international businessman became my client and he had suffered tremendous back pain for a very, very long time. Now back pain, as you probably know, is extremely common. My new book, The Difference Between Pain and Suffering, talks at length about back pain. And I have an appendix in the back with 41 yoga exercises that I use most often to get people out of pain: back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, hip pain, neck pain, and exhaustion. So, but at any rate, in this case, this guy, international businessman, never done any, natural healing before. But when I looked at it, and this is somewhat funny, but his pain was absolutely related to past lives. And it was kind of fun working with him because he would go over to Spain, and even his language he would say things like, well, I put them on the rack. And he was referring to torture. And it turned out that he had both been a torturer and tortured in a past life.
In the Spanish Inquisition.
Or who knows? I didn't really pinpoint.
It was popular at the time.
Popular at the time, yes. Torturing people and being tortured was apparently popular. So we cleared that, and he experienced very significant relief. And then in another lifetime, he had been gored in the upper back by a wild animal. And it was interesting because when I would work with him, I would literally see the past life as it was happening. And I'm not that up on my wild animals, but it looked almost like a rhinoceros or something, but it was like this large gray beast with some sort of, something on the front, and he ended up being gored. So there was that past life. And then there was another past life where he'd been some sort of trader or peddler or salesman, and he was robbed. And during the robbery, he had experienced some wounds. So it was interesting because somehow or another, those incidents in the previous past lives had carried forward into what we would refer to as his aura or his energy body. And that had literally disfigured his energy body. But by clearing them, he was experiencing really, really profound levels of relief, and we did nothing on the physical level. So that's a good question. It was very interesting working at that level.
I think we're going to have to talk offline. So, that's very, very interesting. So it's possible to clear them without any, can you do this remotely as well? Do you do this over Skype?
Yes, I work with clients all over the world by phone, Skype, and Zoom video conference. And what's unique about me is I don't have to see someone or put my hands on them to know what's wrong or what is, or what will work to make you better. So it's really, up to the client. Sometimes they like seeing me, and then I brush my hair and put on my lipstick and
you have to, I'll tell you, I'll dress out of your jammies. I know, it sucks, doesn't it? Having people having to see you. But so this is very interesting. Now, do you have, where did your knowledge start? Was it something that you were trained in? Was it something you were interested in? Or did it always seem to be there? Or did it start getting downloaded? I know that's a lot.
Well,
how did it all start for you? And it spirals out because you start with one thing and it leads, that leads on the path, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. And really there's two parts to it, because sometimes people ask me, when did you first realize you're intuitive? Because I have the gift of claircognizance, which is the same gift that Edgar Cayce had, where you just know stuff, right? And so when I'm talking to people and I'm having sessions, it's just like I'm chatting to you, but I'll have clients and they'll say to me, like, you know me better than my best friend who's known me for 20 years. So how did I first know that I was intuitive? Well, when I was a little girl, my family lived in London, England. And this is the first incident that I can recall, I can remember being intuitive. Because people go, well, how did this all happen? And personally, I think, and you probably agree, that I think certain people, I think it's supposedly about 1 or 2% of the population is just born with a very high level of intuition. Personally, I believe that everyone has intuition because you have a soul, and your soul is always trying to communicate with you. Your angels and your spiritual guides and your power animals are always there for you. You're never alone, like ever, not even for 1 second. So anyone, in my opinion, can connect to this soul guidance. That's why I wrote my book, Unlimited Intuition Now, to explain how it works. But as far as myself, when I was a little girl, my family lived in London, England, and it was my brother's birthday, and my brother was born around Easter, so we had an Easter egg hunt. So one day my parents went out in the back garden and they hid the eggs, and among the eggs they hid was a Cadbury golden egg. Now, if you are into chocolate or you have little kids, then you know that the Cadbury golden egg is really a big deal. And as a 6-year-old little girl, I heard about this Cadbury golden egg and I really wanted it. So my brother and I were instructed to hide in the house, don't look, while my parents hid the eggs. So when the day rolled around for my little brother's birthday, and I was 6 and my brother was 3, my parents opened the back doors to the garden, and all of us little kids, we went running out into the garden, and I walked right to the golden egg. And my parents thought that I cheated, which I actually hadn't. So later on, not in front of everybody, but I got spanked because they were certain that I had looked, which I hadn't. I just really wanted a golden egg, and I think I just focused and went out and got it. And so in my book, Unlimited Intuition Now, I talk about discovering the golden egg of your intuition, because I think people who are highly intuitive can remember something like that, where there was something that was just really important to you, and you used your guidance, your soul guidance, to find it. So growing up, I was always very smart. And when I went to Brown University, an Ivy League college, I was Phi Beta Kappa and never pulled an all-nighter. And I ended up studying art history because I had a wonderful professor and I loved him. And I would study paintings and I could literally see them, or I would remember them in my mind's eye. I had like a photographic memory for painting. And so it was very easy for me to study art. And then what happened was, in my early 30s, I got sick. And like you, I think for most of us alternative healers or people in natural healing, there was some personal event that led us on this path. And I got really, really sick. And I'd been on medication because I was the daughter of a doctor, and I was always the perfect little patient and take my drugs and do what the doctors say. And then what happened was I got really sick, and even the doctors said, "We don't know what to do with you." So I got really, really sick, and I spent 3 years researching my first book. My first book was called Healing Depression, A Holistic Guide. It was a book all about how to get out of depression naturally without drugs. And it became the best-selling book of the original publisher and was eventually translated into Chinese. So, at any rate, during that time when I was, getting better, I first started working with a medical doctor, and then someone here in Atlanta said, well, you should go to this natural healer person. So I started studying natural healing, and I thought, I started being a client of this gentleman who was a kinesiologist and nutritionist, and I thought, wow, what he does is really cool. I want to do that. It really works. And so I started studying natural healing. The first thing I studied was actually brain gym. Brain gym is super, super simple. It's just silly little exercises that anybody can do to get your little brain working better. And at the time, I was writing plays. I think I've written 12 plays, and I've had 3 productions off Broadway in New York. And I was writing plays, and I was tutoring little kids in order to make a living, or a so-called living, because I really wasn't making very much money. And anyway, so I started studying brain gym, and it was so fascinating, and I just kept studying and kept studying. And eventually I met this wonderful lady in Canada, and she is my mentor in healing. I love and revere her. I tell people I have an Ivy League college degree, and I was Phi Beta Kappa, and my mentor never even went to college. And I'm proud of that because I'm open to wisdom. And I think it's very important when you want to be a good healer to find a good mentor. And now I'm a mentor to many other healers. A lot of my clients are natural healers, and they're very bright people and they're very dedicated people, but they get stuck on their own journey. And I know how to be healthy. I know how to run a successful holistic practice, and I know how to hold that energy and not get drained. And so anyway, I started studying natural healing with this wonderful woman in Canada, Sue Mays of London, Ontario. I still adore her. And then I just kept studying. I'm a very, very curious person. I've taught yoga for 21 years. I teach Qigong. I've studied all kinds of nutrition. I'm a Reiki master. And sometimes people ask me, well, what's your resume? And I'll go, well, just go look it up. I don't remember it all. But what I do is I just always look for the really, really bright, successful people, and I go and learn everything that I can from them. And when I went to Brown, as I mentioned, I was a Phi Beta Kappa, so I'm a very good student. I'm very fast learner, and at this point, I've done natural healing for 24 years full time. So I'm a master healer. In order to be a master at anything, you got to have 10,000 hours of practice, which is about 10 years. So I have 24 years of experience in natural healing. So I have a very, very big menu of working with to help people. And usually when I work with people, I just talk to you and then figure out what it is that you need to do to shift. And I have to say, I'm very, very thankful to do what I do. I have a wonderful life. I have the life that everybody wants. I work out of my house with my dog, who's so sweet. She's lying on the floor right here. I teach yoga and Qigong. I have an organic garden. My healing studio is full of orchids. And all day long, every day, I just get to help people. So I just feel like it's the greatest privilege of all to watch people get healthier and happier every day.
Wow. So, do you want to answer questions from the chat room yet?
Absolutely, sure.
Okay.
I love doing that because I've done many medical and intuitive readings by radio.
Oh,
so,
have you? Do you do live readings?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, but be warned, I tell everybody I'm nice but blunt.
Oh, good.
Okay.
We like sugar-free readings.
Exactly.
Because, yes. You were talking before about this thing about, being gored by a this and a gored by a that. And it sparked me thinking, well, I actually have a thing that, I can, sense that I've been, spiked more than one time in the same place. Mm-hmm. Over lifetimes, and I unconsciously protect it with my left hand, with my left arm all the time. Mm-hmm. If you ever, want to, switch on your scanners and have a guinea pig, just to show people what's going on, do feel free. You are.
Okay, well, let me make a comment about that. Yeah. And I'm going to get a little bit technical, so bear with me. Okay, so there is a law of physics that anytime there's a vertical electrical current, there's a magnetic field perpendicular to that. So when you're standing up, you're vertical, and then you've got this energy body, which the New Age people call your aura. Now, there's layers to your aura. And there's also, if you can think of it as like levels of power. So your spiritual body is the most powerful part of you, and your soul controls your mind controls your emotions, Your emotions control your energy, and your energy controls your physical body. Now, when you have dis-ease or illness, dis-ease or illness begins in the energy field and comes into the physical body. And when you want to heal, you've got to push it out backwards. You've got to go from the physical, through the energy body, through the emotional body, through the mental body, and the spiritual body. Okay, and then there's also a flow of energy in the body, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but just so I don't lose everybody. So this aura, this energy field around you has layers to it, and you can have holes in your aura. What causes holes in your aura? I had a client who had a diving accident, and she had been in a study for back pain at the National Institute of Health, taken Vioxx, etc. And when I fixed the hole in her energy field, her pain went away. She'd actually become a Pilates instructor, but still had pain, and it was patching the hole that got her out of pain. I worked years ago with a young man who'd been raped by 3 men. There was a hole in his energy field. Sometimes airport scanners, going through the scanner in an airport, can cause a hole. But basically, you have an aura around you, and this aura is an energetic web, and there can be tears in that. And I, as a healer, will go through and find the holes and patch them up. So you patch this up with energy healing. So you have to find where in the aura the hole is, and you patch it up. And wherever you have these holes, you're going to have energy leakages. Many people who are highly empathic, what's going on is that they have holes in their energy field. And I tell people, hey, you may be a really nice person, but if you leave the door to your house open, anything can come in. I remember working one time with a lady who was another healer, and she had obsessive compulsive disorder, very bad case of hand washing. For 2 years, she'd consulted every healer that she could think of, and she had a huge hole in her energy field. It was almost as big as her entire back. It was the largest hole in an energy field I've ever seen in my life. So she was literally wide open.
Wow. How did she get that?
That was a very weird case, as if what we're talking about isn't weird enough. What had happened was, somehow or another, if I could recall the story, she had worked with someone with cancer, and they basically had a falling out. And somehow or another, that person had attached to her and was still attached to her through this hole in the energy field. So again, there can be multiple reasons for people to have holes in your energy field, but when you basically, I have these grids, and I find out where in your energy grid the hole is, and you patch it with Reiki or energy healing using color and light and healing energy. But it's actually very common to have holes in the energy field. And, what it feels like when you have these holes in your energy field is that you get what I can only refer to as psychic whack, where all of a sudden you're just affected by the energy around you, and it can affect your nervous system, and it can affect you mentally, emotionally. It's a big source of pain and also exhaustion. So at any rate, you've got to figure out where the holes in the energy body are and patch them up.
I see. And have you ever found that there's like all right, so here's another thing. The use of magical ritual implements to do damage can cause a scarring that lasts for lifetimes as well.
Okay.
Have you ever had to deal with anything like that? Like what do they call it? Magically charged swords or something like that.
So here's my comment about that. Okay. So I'm going to sound like a preacher here. I am from the South. I am from Georgia.
Preach on, sister, preach on.
Okay. So here, preach on. Okay. So here's the thing. Whatever energy you put out is what comes back to you. So I always feel that the most selfish thing that I can ever do is be kind, generous, and thoughtful to everyone around me. Because if I put out kindness and unconditional love, if that's the vibration that I emit, if that's the thoughts that I emit, if that's the emotion that I emit, that's what I'm going to get back in return. Okay? And,
yeah, I call that enlightened self-interest.
Absolutely. It's the most selfish thing you can ever do is be kind and generous to everybody around you. Now, what happens, and many people who are not aware of, this is what's referred to as karma. And, instant karma is going to get you, I think is the song. But, when you put out, we'll call it negative thought rays and when you put out intentionally damaging thoughts, that's what's going to come back to you, and you don't have to, when you watch or observe other people doing something that can only be referred to as evil, what you have to realize as a spiritually responsible person is that you yourself, when you observe that, you don't have to fix that. It's going to take care of itself because the law of karma is completely balanced and is going to come back somehow or another. So it's really not a good idea to intentionally hurt anyone, even with your thoughts. Even you never want to hope that harm befalls anyone else, because your thoughts have power, your emotions are powerful, and you want to wish well to everyone and everything around you.
Yes, indeed. Because if you bless someone bad, well, something good happens for the world.
Absolutely. And, my feeling is, my belief is this. This is my belief, such as it is. I believe that it's all one energy. Okay. Now within this one energy, there are different vibrations. That's why it just makes it easier. There's salt and there's pepper. And if I need salt, I don't want to get the pepper. So there's different vibrations within this one energy, but it's all one energy. And in my view, it's all one energy and it's all God and it's all good. So everything that ever happens is for your highest good. So when you really look at things that way, if you look at everything that ever happens to you as being for your highest good, then you can look at the world and the universe as being a friendly place. And Einstein said the most important question was whether or not you consider the universe to be a friendly place. So if you're listening right now, that's a really good thing to do a healing or a clearing on yourself about, to get to the point where you know and experience that the universe is a friendly place for you. Because when that is your knowledge and your experience, then everything happens for your highest good, and everyone is at the soul level, everyone is your friends, and we're all having spiritual experiences, learning and growing together.
So really, that's the key to not suffering, is to understand that the universe is working in your favor, and that things that happen to you in order that you learn, or that you can have fun.
Right, absolutely. So you can grow. So I feel that the more you can develop your light body, the less experience you will have of your pain. As I said, a lot of times I observe people. I have clients who come into me and they have, very severe spinal conditions, and you ask them how they're doing. They're like, I'm great. Well, they are great because they've mastered how to maintain a positive emotional state. They've mastered the art of forgiveness. They know the power of positive thinking. They know that their thoughts create their reality, and they're creating a positive reality. And yet there are other people who come in and they're on oxycodone and they're on antidepressants, and you look at them and you think, what you have to get over is so easy, it's ridiculous. It's like you're standing in your own way. So, we have to really think about, when somebody is in pain, in my books, I talk about payoffs. And payoffs are also referred to as secondary gains. These are payoffs that you get by staying sick and in pain.
Yes, why people don't heal.
Yeah, why people don't heal. You're juicing the experience, right?
Exactly. There's some kind of leverage that, or I call it a sweetness to being in the victim position or in the suffering position. That's very interesting.
Yeah. And so you really want to be your own best friend and ask yourself, where am I playing the role of victim? Where am I juicing this experience? And what am I getting out of? If you've been sick for a long time, you got to ask yourself, what am I getting out of being sick? And whenever I have clients who have been sick for multiple years, one of the first things that I will do with a client like that is I will do a healing with them to be willing to be healthy. And because again, they are getting these payoffs of being sick. And you have to clear the payoffs. So what are payoffs? I'm going to give you some examples of payoffs. No responsibility. If you're sick, you don't have to take out the garbage, get a job, earn a living, get up in the morning, or become somebody. Avoid suffering. Somehow you view staying the way you are as a pathway to avoid the pain of growth. Avoid rejection. You could be choosing to stay overweight so you can avoid being rejected by members of the opposite sex. You use your weight as an excuse to avoid dating. Get taken care of. This is a biggie. As long as you stay sick, other people have to make your meals, do the chores around the house, or support you financially. Superiority, another big one. You're so important and you're so special that no one can heal you. You might have to go to a specialist in another country, for God's sake, or find someone with multiple initials behind their name, because ordinary solutions just won't work for you. No commitment. You don't have to commit yourself to an exercise or eating plan or make some other activity requiring discipline to make progress. You can just do whatever you please and stay the way you are. Permission. Your illness or excess weight gives you permission to make excuses for yourself. You don't have to go to the party, wear a bathing suit, work long hours, or be accountable to other people, and so on and so forth. So again, and victim martyr, you get attention by suffering. You're the victim of other people. You take on everybody's troubles and woes. So again, and I say this very, very compassionately, if you've been sick or suffering for a long time, you got to ask yourself and sit with yourself and have a moment of truth and ask yourself, what am I getting out of staying sick? And what would my life look like if I let go of the payoffs?
Those are some very, very important questions there. And, while you were speaking, I was thinking of a particular, couple I know who one member is manipulating the other by being ill and, causing the other, even though they've separated, he still is, able to control her behavior because he's ill. It's a really interesting, juice, extraction there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It can contribute to, lifelong unhappiness. So you got to ask yourself again, what would my life look like if I gave up these payoffs? And, the word healing, really what it's about is return to wholeness. And when I work with people, I see you as being whole already. When I work with clients, I do not see you as broken or as having anything missing. It's my belief and experience that you already have everything you need inside of you to get better, even if it's a phone number, even if it's an awareness. So, it's a mistake to see yourself as broken. You are a soul having a physical experience here on earth. And inside of you, you already have the resources to get well. If I'm doing hands-on healing, when I put my hands on a person, I say to your body, the physical, I'll say, remember health. Remember what it felt like when you felt good. Because inside of you, your cells hold the memory of radiant health. And even if you were sick since the day you were born, and I've worked with lots of clients who've been sick literally their whole life, you still hold in your DNA the human experience of radiant health. And once you understand that your cells are already knowing how to be healthy, all you have to do is turn on that gene expression of radiant health. And your genes and your DNA respond to your environment very, very strongly. What's your environment? Your nutrition, your thoughts, and everyone and everything around you. So you put yourself in a high vibration place with loving people, really good nutrition, lots of fresh air and sunlight, and you think positive thoughts, and you hold in mind that your soul, that at the cellular level, you know what it means to be radiantly healthy.
Well, there's something to remember. It's very interesting, very, very interesting. Wow. We're coming up to the top of the first hour, and but sometimes we don't. In the last, sometimes the breaks are, they've just, reinstalled the systems while we're on the broadcast system. So I might not be exactly on time. So this is why we're talking. So before we go any further, do you have a website?
Yes. My website is CatherineCarrigan.com. That's CatherineCarrigan.com. And I have another website, which is UnlimitedEnergyNow.com. And UnlimitedEnergyNow.com, you can think of that almost like an encyclopedia. I've got recipes of all these wonderful, healthy foods that you can make. I've got videos of healthy exercises you can do to heal yourself. I've got all these free downloads. I've got so much free information if you go to UnlimitedEnergyNow.com. If you go to UnlimitedEnergyNow.com and do even 10% of what I talk about there, you could be amazingly healthy. And at CatherineCarrigan.com, I've got blogs. I've got a tremendous amount of free information all about my work as a medical intuitive healer and in natural healing.
And do you do sessions?
Absolutely. I work with clients all over the world by phone, Skype, and Zoom video conference. And if you're listening, you can reach out to me for a free consult for 15 minutes. I hesitate. I do get contacted by people literally all over the world. And in the U.S., I offer the free consult to people I can work with over the phone. So I'm a very busy person. So if you call me at 678-612-8816, if I'm not immediately available, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, we're up against a hard break. We'll be back in a few minutes. A few beats of your heart. Stay tuned to Journeys tonight with JP again. Listener supported. Please keep these pennies coming. It really helps. You know it makes sense. This is a public service announcement. My guest tonight, as Journeys with JP host JP, Catherine Carrigan, and we're talking about, well, among many things, the difference between pain and suffering. As you heard the jingle at the break there. The difference between danger and fear. That was what I was trying to get to. Yeah. So, we're told often, that we have a choice. Yet from the perspective of like where you start in these things, it often seems like we've never had a choice. It always feels like we've just been kind of thrown about from one situation to another. And often the choice that we make is something that is buried in the subconscious mind because it happened before we could even speak. How do you go about finding and remembering that choice point where you can then unchoose?
Oh, that's a great question, JP. So in my work as a medical intuitive healer, I have a system of how I do my healing. So, for example, let's say you wanted to get rid of your back pain. Well, we would set a goal such as I joyfully release the pain in my back in an easy, healthy way. The very next thing that I would do is find the emotion or emotions that cause the pain. And the reason that you want to find the emotional cause of the suffering is that if you don't clear the emotion behind your pain, you get rid of the pain in your elbow, you hurt your knee. You get rid of the pain in your elbow and your knee, and you hurt your neck, and so on. The energy just morphs from one area of your body to another. So we find the emotion, and then we find the age or ages at which this pattern started. So I always start with your current age, whatever age you're at now, and then go backwards in time. So I go back through this lifetime. Many patterns started at birth. The two most traumatic things that will ever happen to you are being born and dying. So many of the issues that you have as a human being actually started as a result of your birth process. And I have a whole manual of issues related to birth process. Then if it's not at birth, again, we go back through this lifetime, then you go back into, was it a past life? How many past lives? And if it did begin in a past life, what are the past life vows that you took that are carrying this energy forward? So a lot of my clients are very, very intelligent, highly educated people. They've done a tremendous amount of inner work. They're not beginners on their healing journey. And I had one lady, she said to me, she said, Catherine, I swept this floor so many times. And we looked, in her case, this lady was a recovered alcoholic. So she was able to, free herself from the disease of alcoholism, but her physical body was still recovering from the effects of 30, 40 years of heavy drinking. And when we were looking at where the pattern started, they didn't start with her. They started with her mother, and then it went back. So frequently you can go back through your own lifetime, this lifetime, and your past lives, but you also have DNA. 50% of your DNA came from your mother, 50% of your DNA came from your father. So it can go back through, you can be carrying literally genetic thought patterns that either went back through your maternal line or your paternal line, and they go all the way back until we find the origin of your dis-ease and illness. So that is why, you may be doing a really excellent job of taking care of yourself. You're doing your yoga, you're meditating, you're eating your organic food, you're thinking positive thoughts, but you're still really struggling with a pattern. And it's because it didn't start with you, or it didn't start with this lifetime, or it didn't start with anything that you're consciously aware of. So, there's something called the Johari window. And the Johari window is really a window into your awareness. And many times there are patterns that you're holding that you're not aware of, and that are also not immediately apparent to other people. But as a medical intuitive healer, I can look deeper into these unconscious patterns that you're holding and help you identify where the issues actually started. And by going to the seed thought that of your illness or your dis-ease, we can actually clear it and then clear it all the way through all the levels.
Ooh, my mind drifts back lifetime after lifetime. Right. Okay. Yeah. Question from Harper Girl. Does DNA absorb and release photons?
That is a really good question. And, you know, I am very highly trained in natural healing. And the answer to that, I'm not quite sure I completely understand your, question. But what I would say is that if the way I think of your DNA, it's your blueprint. And all energy is light energy. One of my favorite artists is the incredible visionary artist Alex Gray. And he'll paint a human being, you know, beginning with, you know, your outside, what everybody sees, your skin, your hair, your physical appearance, and then paint all the way through into your energy body. So you are actually light, and the molecules that are in you are the same molecules of light energy that are in the stars and the galaxy. So the technical answer to your question would be yes, is that you are light energy and therefore your DNA is light energy and you're still carrying, you're literally stars, you're starlight. And, I think there's some beautiful song, you know, we're starlight. So you're carrying that energy, that light energy through into your DNA.
So, DNA blueprint, etheric body. This is the interesting thing. This is the web that holds us together. How do you feed the etheric body? What does it eat?
Oh, that's a great question. And you know, I really appreciate you asking this question because a lot of people, when they think of doing natural healing, they think of eating organic food and taking supplements and, you know, eating well. And I am a nutritionist and this evening I had my vegetable soup with my kale salad and my roasted kale and my kombucha. I eat extremely well. I eat very high vitality food. But when you're talking about feeding your etheric body, one of the ways that's very important to take care of yourself is to take care of your energy body. How do you do that? I'm a big fan of breath work. I've taught yoga for 21 years. Pranayama, or breathing exercises, is a very powerful way of releasing trapped energy in your body, also known as emotions, getting that energy moving, the energy of emotions moving and moving out so it doesn't get stuck and make you sick. So to answer your question, to feed the etheric body, you can do pranayama. I'm a big fan of Qigong. Qigong is almost, in my mind, like a fine wine that you have to be highly educated to appreciate. But basically, when you practice Qigong, you're clearing your energy field. You're balancing your acupuncture system. I have visited an acupuncturist. I'm a big fan of acupuncture, but I don't do acupuncture. I do Qigong. I teach Qigong in my garden here in Atlanta every Wednesday afternoon. You can come join us, be in the fresh air and the sunlight. We're out by my beautiful organic garden with the flowers. And when you practice Qigong and or Tai Chi, you're literally balancing that etheric body. I also teach yoga. I usually teach about 5 yoga classes a week. And when you practice yoga, you're literally opening and balancing your chakra system. It's interesting for me as a long-term healer, whenever I do healing work on other yoga teachers, their chakra system is usually very, very balanced because they're practicing yoga on a regular basis. So to answer your question, the way you feed your etheric body is you practice pranayama or you practice Tai Chi, Qigong, and/or yoga, and you have a regular practice to take care of your energy. One of my 6 Amazon #1 bestsellers is called Unlimited Energy Now, because the #1 problem that I see in my new clients is exhaustion. I'm 58 years old. It's 9:14 p.m. here Eastern Time in Atlanta, Georgia. And if you can't tell, I have great energy. I didn't always have great energy, but I learned how to take care of my energy body. So if you are tired all the time, you need to learn how to take care of your energy body. And simple ways of doing this are breathing exercises, yoga, Tai Chi, and Qigong. These are very profound practices that will change your life for the better.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very much. So there's a comment in the chat room is, some of us have been working long and hard to heal ourselves of illness and pain. It often seems to be a long journey. There are different ways of looking at it, I suppose. Don't you think?
Yes. And I make a comment. If you've been sick for a long time, please know that I have tremendous compassion for you. I remember my mentor in healing, she gave me one of the greatest compliments I've ever received one time, because she said to me, Catherine, you were the sickest client I've ever worked with. She said most people who were as sick as you were would have just given up. And so my personal story is that I was on lithium and antidepressants for 18 years. I was physically abused by my father. The first memory I ever have of my entire life is of my father beating my mother with a belt buckle, and my mother covering me with her body so that I didn't get hit as a baby. That's the first memory of my life. I spent 2 years in a support group for battered women. As I mentioned, I was on lithium and antidepressants for 18 years. I understand the healing journey. And this is my comment. If you've been on a healing journey for a long time, you want to be compassionate to yourself. I remember I would write in my journal, I would go, darn, I would just get discouraged at times, because I literally spent decades working on myself on every level. And it's part of, I think, what has made me such a really effective healer is that I understand not only step 1, but step 538 or step 1032. And so if you're listening and you've been really struggling for a long time, what I want you to do is I want you to make a list of everything you have overcome. Because if you're listening to this program, you're still here. You've made it. You've made it this far. So make a list of everything that you've overcome. A lot of times what we do is we look at the mountain in front of us instead of looking at how far we've come. So look at how far you've come, and then realize that if you've come this far, you can keep going. I remember one time working with a client of mine, and she was talking about her family, and in her mind, her family was so unenlightened. And I remember asking her, I said, okay, well, just stop for a minute. I want you to ask yourself, how long have you been working on yourself? And she stopped and she said, probably I've been working on myself 10, 15 years. I said, okay, now how much money have you spent on your own personal growth work? And she was like, man, I couldn't even count. Probably tens of thousands of dollars. I said, we're the lucky ones. Those of us who've been able to heal ourselves this far. I got off lithium and antidepressants after 18 years. I was physically abused by my father and my first husband. I've had head injuries. I know what it takes to heal. And when you come this far, even if you're not there yet, even if you haven't overcome everything that you hope to overcome yet, I want you to honor the strength of your soul and realize that this process is making you an even better person. You're making yourself stronger. You're making yourself tenacious. And I'm a very tenacious person, and also known as stubborn, depending on your point of view. And that makes me bring that energy of tenacity in my work with my clients because I don't give up. And there's always hope. And if you have been working on one level, as I said, maybe you've been working on your physical level, but there's some other aspect of yourself where you can shine more light. You can shine more light into your energy body or into your emotions, or into your mind or into your soul. There's hope for you.
Sounds like your dog's getting really excited in the back now.
As a matter of fact, I have a 2-year-old puppy. So, if you'll just bear with me, that really means that we have a tennis ball emergency.
We have a tennis ball emergency. Okay, well, I'll fill in because, actually I was posting a meme there. There's about the different things in, washing, the symbols you get on washing, on clothes about washing and what they mean. One of them, one tennis ball, 2 tennis balls, lots of tennis balls, too many tennis balls. You're boiling tennis balls. So, meanwhile, here we are. This is, I'm speaking with
Catherine Carrigan. And I think the tennis ball emergency has passed. I have a 2-year-old puppy. She's so sweet and so beautiful, and she definitely works with me. But you would not believe how many tennis balls we have in our house. And I thought I had put away absolutely every tennis ball. She's sitting here with me now. If you're out there listening, she's a little Cocker Spaniel, and she's black and white and fluffy and just as sweet and cute as she can be. And it's funny being a healer dog. I know if you're listening, there's probably a lot of other healers out there listening, and a lot of us healers, we have a cat or a dog. And my previous dog was a rescue girl, and she'd been in 2 pet rescues. She'd definitely been abused, and she had more healing work than most people will have in many lifetimes. And so she was just a natural healer. She would greet people at the door. She would snuggle with them when they received energy healing. And my new puppy is full of energy, and she has a totally different story. So when people would first come, she would eat their shoes and play with their bottles of vitamins, but she's learning. She's very sweet, and she's learning how to be a comfort to others. So I obviously can't find the tennis ball. It's obviously stuck someplace, but anyway, but animals are wonderful, and they bring us lots of love and joy, and they definitely help to raise your vibration. And I think that anybody who's really suffering should definitely get a dog or a cat. And just by having another living being who brings you joy and makes you smile, that in itself will uplift you.
Someone to live for. It sounds like you're throwing. Are you throwing the ball at the same time? Bless. Oh, right. So, right. Okay. Yeah. Harper Girl is saying that she has 2 Brittany Spaniels and they're so great at healing. So there we go.
Of course, I know animals really know. They'll. It's so funny. If you do energy work, they will go right to the area that needs the most support. They know.
And, you've, often heard about, dogs that sniff out cancers and things like that.
Yeah. Yes. I don't quite understand how that works, but I do know that they're being trained for that. So.
Well, because cancer's a fungus and it stinks.
That makes total sense to me. Yeah.
There's a sense that you may have that on an analogy would be this a sense of smell that you receive on, but maybe not. So there's a sense that is disturbing, when you come across a tumor, but it depends on what frequency bands you're listening on as to how you perceive that. But the dog sees it as a thing that has an interesting smell, a funky smell, you know.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Bless their little hearts. So, do we have, no, any more questions in chat? I'm just having a look at, also the, Revolution Radio chat as well. Oh, here we go. From Hyro. Hi, Hyro. Why is our love towards our family of animals greater in most circumstances than the conditional love we have towards humans? What's the big difference? What a fabulous question.
Oh, that is a great question. So I'm going to make a couple of comments. So first of all, your family of origin is your mom and dad are here to give you a body. It's a privilege to be alive. So let's talk a moment about how this works. So many times as a soul, it can be hard to be born. So I've had many clients who, your current birth parents, the people that you were born to, your biological mother and your biological father, were not your first choice. So I like to joke, maybe your first choice was parents in Beverly Hills with lots of money and they were going to give you a car when you were 16 and your life is going to be easy. So what happens is that the soul tries to incarnate and then for various reasons the fetus doesn't develop properly. There's a spontaneous abortion. If you've ever tried to get pregnant and had, multiple tries, you know what I'm talking about. So a lot of times your birth parents are not your first choice, and then your feelings about that will affect a particular organ. For example, you may be angry about it and hold a lot of energy in your liver and then be carrying forward this energy of anger and disappointment into the rest of your life. So your family is really what I would refer to as your child family. And when you become more spiritually aware, it can be actually great fun to go back into your child family because you get to practice. Can you actually age with your child family? I think, that's when you're really enlightened, when you can go back and be with your child family and not get triggered. Triggered by all the issues that they pull up for you. So you got to have a lot of compassion for that. And my mentor in healing, her belief is that your child family is only here to give you a body. And if you have any relationship with them after the age of 18, it's just a bonus. Now, when it comes to animals are in the now. Animals are always in the moment. So, for example, my little puppy who was just crying for her tennis ball, which she couldn't find, she now has a little stuffed toy in her mouth and now we're happy again. So animals are very much in the present moment and they're able to respond to the energy of unconditional love. Whereas with humans, we're basically carrying around a lot of emotional baggage. And again, your unresolved emotional baggage is your pain body. And when you take the time to do the inner work to release and let go of this unresolved emotional baggage and to get out of these old programs, you free yourself from a tremendous amount of discomfort. But to answer your question, animals, they're not holding this horrible memory and all their resentment of what's happened in the past. And they're more able to deal with you in the present moment. And that's so freeing and empowering for us. And that's, I think, part of why we love them so much. In addition to the fact that they're cute and fluffy. Or at least my puppy's cute and fluffy.
And she's found the squeaky toy.
Yeah, she's found the squeaky toy. Absolutely. We're happy now. Now the tennis ball emergency has passed.
Oh, that's good. That's good. At least there are tennis balls. So, there will be tennis balls. Yes. So your contact details once again, because we lost them in the break. So we got a nice big clear chunk of time. How may people get in touch with you? How may they book sessions with you?
So, I have several websites. One of my websites is CatherineCarrigan.com. CatherineCarrigan.com. That's actually my favorite website because it's got photographs of my orchids and my organic garden. Again, I think nature is a natural healer. Being in nature, being around beauty is very uplifting. And my view is that the world we live in is a beautiful place, and I wanted to show that in my website, CatherineCarrigan.com. My second website is UnlimitedEnergyNow.com, and in my view, UnlimitedEnergyNow.com is like an encyclopedia of natural healing. You're going to find a tremendous amount of free information there. You're going to find recipes there of, how to make healthy, delicious foods that make you feel good. You're going to find lots of free videos of breathing exercises, pranayama, yoga exercises, qigong exercises, stretching exercises, all kinds of exercises, and lots of free downloads of very powerful information. And if you do even 10% of what's on Unlimited Energy Now, you can be radiantly healthy. And my blog at CatherineCarrigan.com, that includes my latest musings about my work as a medical intuitive and natural healing. And I do work with clients all over the world by phone, Skype, and Zoom video conference. I don't need to see you or put my hands on you to know what's wrong or what will work to make you better. And if you're in the U.S., I offer a free 15-minute consult. And the reason I say in the U.S. is that if you call me at 678-612-8816, if I'm not immediately available, I'll get back to you and offer a free 15-minute consult. My clients around the world, I prefer not to do it that way unless you want to call me on the phone. But I do offer free consults and help people gain insight into what's going on with them, with their health and healing.
Fabulous. So that's where we go to CatherineCarrigan.com. And, you've got so many strings to your bow, one wonders which one to pluck next. Frequency and healing. This is one of my interests as well. Do you use color or sound in any of your?
Yes. I have done natural healing for 24 years. I have a huge menu. And big picture, all disease or illness, as you know, JP, is slowed down energy. And you already know what I'm talking about. If you've ever been to a hospital or a nursing home is a great example of slowed down energy. You're in a nursing home for 5 minutes, you look at your wristwatch or your phone, you're like, oh my God, how long have I been here? The energy feels like it's almost stopped. So once you understand that all illness or disease is slowed down vibration, healing happens when you uplift your energy, when you uplift your vibration. So that is why your frequency that you set yourself out and your frequency, your energy is so crucial. And the more that you manage your frequency to be as clear and as high vibration as you can, the healthier you will be. So how do you uplift your vibration? You can do so much to uplift your vibration that's free. It's not even funny. You can take a bath. You can take a shower to clear your energy. You can walk in nature. You can walk at the beach. You can walk in the woods. You can play with your puppy or little kid. You're really only a puppy, a kitten, or a baby away from a big smile and a laugh. You can be with people who love you and who you love. You can give and receive hugs. You can watch a funny movie. You can tell a joke. You can think a positive thought. And no matter how desperate or painful you feel at the moment, you can always choose the most possible thought, most positive thought. And by always choosing the most positive thought, you can think of yourself almost like a ladder of pulling your vibration upwards and higher so that you gradually shift out of the suffering.
Again, it's about changing the vibration and getting through the latency. People, well, I suppose that, if you're experiencing some of the natural disasters here, you will suffer from latency. If you can't get out of the place that you need to get out of, you will suffer terrible consequences. And so this is a moment for us to become in the moment, in real time. Why don't you talk?
I want to make a comment about that because it's very important as you learn how to manage your energy that you stay out of other people's stuff. Now, Al-Anon, if you've ever gone to Al-Anon, that's not something that I've had the privilege.
Sorry, no, I've never. No.
But I know other people have. They talk about working your side of the street and staying out of other people's energy. So here's a way of thinking about it. So as you know, several years ago we had a bombing at the Boston Marathon, and if you tried to understand what was going on in the minds of the Boston bombers, you really couldn't. So what happens is that when you try and understand someone who is basically a sociopath or a mass murderer, what you're literally doing is you're putting yourself in toxic energy. And when you try and understand someone, you're literally going into their file cabinet. So, for example, you know me, you've been listening to me, you know that my name is Catherine Carrigan. But you don't know what happened to me when I was 4 years old or when I was growing up. So, when you try and understand someone, you're literally going into their file cabinet. And so when you're going into the energy of a mass murderer, for example, the person who caused the mass murder in Las Vegas, you can't really possibly understand what was going on in his mind. And my advice is don't try to. Do not try to understand that mindset because it's toxic energy. The better part of a wisdom is to avoid that which makes you go weak. So avoid toxic energy, whether it's trying to understand mass murderers or whether it's radon or the toxins that they spray on wheat, the glyphosate that's so toxic and what's causing so many people to be sensitive to wheat. So you really want to stay in as high vibratory state as you can. When you remain joyful, you simply have more to give and you can become an energy giver rather than someone who needs to be taken care of, if that makes sense.
It certainly does. And it sounds like you're juggling with one hand. That's brilliant. From Harper Girl, what are your favorite colors to work with and why? Colors.
Oh, that is a great question.
I love colors.
Yeah, so what I do when I wake up in the morning, I turn on my intuition by asking guidance about what colors to wear. Now I know you're listening to me, so you can't see me, but I'm a girly girl. I love clothes. I love jewelry. I have all my clothes organized by color. And I'll ask for guidance about what color that I wear. And as you know, if you know color therapy, different colors balance different chakras. Sometimes it's for me. Sometimes it's for a client that I'm working for. Today I actually happen to be wearing silver. And, so again, you can consciously set your vibration by the colors that you wear and by the gemstones. So I ask for guidance about the colors that I wear, and then I go to my jewelry box, and one of my hobbies is making jewelry with natural gemstones. And I'm managing my puppy by, since I'm trying to keep her from barking, I'm throwing her stuffed squirrel here. So thanks for bearing with me. So you can manage your vibration by consciously choosing the colors you wear. And although this may seem like a frivolous or superficial thing, colors actually heal the spiritual body. That is why if you go into many beautiful cathedrals, you will see the stained glass windows because they're balancing at the spiritual level. So it's sometimes some of the things that seem the easiest are actually some of the most powerful. So what are my favorite colors? I love green. You know, go figure, I'm a healer, right? Green is one of my favorite colors. And not everyone can wear green, but I love green. I've got all kinds of green jewelry. I've got lots of moldavites. Moldavite is probably the most high frequency stone. And my favorite gemstones are moldavites and Herkimer diamonds. And I have some jewelry that has both moldavite and Herkimers together. So green, I love pink, I love gold, and I love purple. But I also like red, so and peach. So I really am able to play with all the colors of the rainbow. And it's really about again, what frequency do I need that day and what frequencies my clients need that day. And when I get the guidance to wear certain gemstones, so for example, if I get the guidance to wear blue lace agate, which is a stone of gentleness, then I know that I need to be especially gentle with my clients that day. Right now I'm wearing a lotus blossom sapphire, which balances your second chakra. And when that's open, we're joyful and happy, and we express that vibration. So I'm very conscious about colors and gemstones and how they're affecting me and how they're affecting the people around me.
And she says Mardi Gras colors.
Yeah, definitely. Happiness, joy.
So, yeah, that's very interesting because there's, okay, so we have color frequencies. How about astrology? Have you is there any link between astrology and your healing? Or well, do you apply any astrological techniques in your healing form?
That's a great question. You know, one of my best friends is Maxine Taylor, who's an astrologer with 35 years. And Maxine taught a class this year on understanding astrology. And I said, Maxine, you can be the astrologer. However, there is a healing modality in my menu, and that is alchemy. And alchemy is a system of herbology from the Middle Ages that is based on astrology. And alchemy is utterly fascinating and incredibly powerful. And when you study alchemy, you have remedies for your physical body, you have remedies for your mind level, and remedies for your soul. So and it's all based on astrology. So you determine, when you're working with alchemy, you determine where the imbalance is. Is it actually in the physical body? Is it in the mind and emotions? Or is it at the soul level? And then you're going to be using specific herbs to address the imbalances at each of those levels. So that is how I incorporate astrology into my healing practice. And when you study alchemy, a different planet will rule a different day. So right now we're on Monday, which is Moon Day. So if you have a moon imbalance, you can be a lunatic, and no pun intended, and be, highly emotional. So if you're highly emotional, really variable in your emotions, you may have a moon imbalance, and you can balance that through alchemy, which again uses astrology. But you determine where the imbalance is, and then you use specific herbs to address that. And I remember years ago I had a liver problem, and I got over this pretty serious liver issue with one bottle of an alchemical herb. And I was so impressed that I went all the way to Oregon to study with the creators of the herbs. It's very, very fascinating.
That's always how you learn, isn't it?
Yes,
You
absolutely.
just get into stuff because you're obviously very enthused about the journey that you've had and the knowledge that you've acquired through all of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you want to, people who've been in pain and who are suffering, they're desperate. And, they've been to a lot of people, they've spent a lot of money, they've wasted a lot of money, and they're frustrated. So when you can cut through all that noise and pinpoint where the imbalances are and how to, bring wholeness to their being, it's incredibly rewarding. I've done a lot of work I'm an author. I've published 8 books, and I'll tell you the most rewarding work that I ever do is my healing, because there's nothing like, walking in and seeing a client and they're so much better and they're happier and they're, feeling good, and then they tell all their friends because they feel so much better. So it's very, very rewarding work.
That's and that's the part of it that you're giving more energy to your community and obviously the greater world. It's they're clearing their connection with their own self, their own source, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really funny that you mentioned that, JP, because when I studied medical intuition, one of the rituals, as it were, that I learned was something called source connection. And if you go to unlimitedenergynow.com, you can get a free download for directions on how to do source connection. But basically, it's a technique where you connect every aspect of yourself up to God, because when you're totally connected to the divine, when you're in a state of unconditional love, then you will know whatever you need to know, and you'll be able to provide the information that people need to hear at that moment.
Lovely. Bit of inspiration. So, sounds like things have calmed down at your end.
Oh, we're still throwing the stuffed toy. Like I said, better than crying over lost tennis balls.
Oh, then do you not have a tennis ball to hand? Have you got one on a string?
Oh, we have so many tennis balls here, I can't even tell you. And, yeah, it's like the tennis ball factory.
Higher is insisting that you use higher quality tennis balls that don't burst, last 5 times as long, he says.
Oh, there you go. Well, thanks for that tip. I'm very blessed because I live 5 minutes from a forest, and I get to walk in the woods every day, usually several times a day. And also near the woods where we walk is a tennis court, which is what I refer to as the tennis ball farm. So, when our tennis ball count drops below 10, we can go to the tennis ball farm and acquire more tennis balls for free.
So you have a tennis ball cornucopia.
Yes, for sure.
There you go. What better place to live, eh? Little piece of heaven and tennis balls. Which for a spaniel, I suppose, is heaven too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And, there again, when we have these little beings around us, like I said, you're really only a baby, a kitten, or a puppy away from a happy life. And, little children, dogs and kitty cats, they know how to be happy. And when you play with your little, fur baby friends, that joy that you experience by being with them, that carries over into your work and into your interactions with other people.
I've just got chickens. I don't mind cats. Had a girlfriend with a cat recently. That was nice. Yeah, chickens are, they're not fur babies. You wouldn't want to take one into your, sleeping bag with you. Not really.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. I have done medical intuitive readings on cats. Cats are neurotic. That's not a newsflash. Dogs, horses, goats and donkeys. So, most of my clients are humans, of course, but, sometimes I get asked about, people's pets or farm animals. And I always have tremendous, compassion for the animals because when they're in pain, they can't tell you what's wrong. And a lot of times it'll only be when things get really bad, when their human caretakers actually figure out that, they need to be taken care of.
Yeah, they're pretty tough, the chickens anyway. Well, these ones are, these little, roosters. I got two roosters that grew from egg. They're kind of like, what are they, like the phoenixes or they're like a double-headed creature because they do this opposite thing. One looks to the left and one looks to the right. And they're synchronized,
Sweet.
and then when they crow, one of them is slightly alpha who has a higher voice and the other one is slightly beta and he's got a lower voice. And they crow like call and response. And then there's a point when they both crow together. It's this this unholy sound in the middle of the night. That's my life. So anyway, we're coming to we've got about 6 minutes out. You got some new projects? Do you have, new books coming out?
So I haven't started on my next book. I'll just share with your listeners, I'll give you a sort of rundown of the books that I have published so far. My first book was called Healing Depression, a Holistic Guide. And by the way, if you are a reader, you can follow me on Goodreads.com. Goodreads is the largest website, a social media website for readers and authors. So you can connect with me on Goodreads. And I am doing a giveaway on Goodreads. You can sign up to win a free copy of The Difference Between Pain and Suffering. So, my second book was called What is Healing? Awaken Your Intuitive Power for Health and Happiness.
I'm gonna say, kill it, go on, kill it, just kill it.
And
Okay,
that
go ahead.
book, What is Healing, is about my work as a medical intuitive. Unlimited Energy Now is a handbook that you can use to rebuild your energy. As I mentioned, the number one complaint that I hear from my new clients is exhaustion. So adrenal burnout, it's just pandemic in our society. So Unlimited Energy Now. Banish the Blues Now is a book that anybody can use to overcome overcome antidepressants and depression. So unfortunately, I think they say about 12% of our adult population now is on antidepressants. It's actually in the water. And, again, one of the reasons I'm so passionate about my current book, The Difference Between Pain and Suffering, is that when you take opioids, they actually damage your brain. They set you up for dementia, depression, and anxiety. So it becomes this vicious cycle. One of my favorite books that I've written is called Unlimited Intuition Now, and that's all about how to open up your psychic gifts, how to listen to your soul, and it goes over the 4 primary psychic gifts: claircognizance, that's my gift, the gift of prophecy, the gift of knowing; clairaudience, which is psychic hearing; clairsentience, which is psychic feeling; and clairvoyance, which is psychic feeling. And I've also written 2 books about social media because I've been so successful as an author. I've learned how to do social media. And those books are What is Social Media Today? Get Ready to Win the Game of Social Media. And What is Social Media Today? Keywords, hashtags, and you, oh my. And as I said, I'm a master healer. And I mentor many other healers and holistic practitioners because when you can learn how to manage your business, this is a wonderful lifestyle. It's so rewarding to be able to work from your home and help people. So, and learning how to do the social media is actually part of that. So I've written 2 books on that. So, I have a good idea about what I want to write about next. And it's about self-esteem and are really learning how to appreciate your own beauty. One of my clients owns an organic skincare company, and I've worked with her over the years. And, whether you're a man or a woman, many people struggle with self-esteem and struggle with feeling good about the way that you look. And it's all an inner game. It's all a head game. And everybody thinks, well, I won't feel beautiful or handsome until I change the weight, or I get plastic surgery, or I have something injected in my face. And if you have done those things, I'm not judging you, but it's all an inner game. And one of my friends recently, she had her breast implants removed because they were causing her to be extremely sick. And she ate a very clean diet. She herself is a nutritionist. And she said people have no idea how those things are making you sick. So my next book, I want to write about, feeling good with who you are and learning how to make peace with the way you look. I'm 58, so I'm going through the aging process myself. I don't look the way that I looked when I was 20. So that's what I want to work on next. But I haven't started because I'm so busy finishing up with the difference between pain and suffering. And anyway, it's very rewarding to be a writer. And the way that I write is I wake up in the morning and I pray and I meditate and I ask for guidance about what to write about, and then I just let it come through that way. So I would say that writing is part of my spiritual practice. And I just trust that what comes through is what I need to be writing about that day.
It's mainly what I hear, a process of stepping out of your own way, allowing the things that will naturally happen to happen naturally without blocking and by giving it time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I would say that for me, learning how to write books is a full serious practice.
And we're out of time. CatherineCarrigan.com. Thank you very much. God bless you.